My wife schemed with her coworker to rob me blind and vanish to a vineyard. So I stayed quiet. But what I revealed in court left her reputation, her plan, and her entire future in ashes. Some people say you can feel a relationship slipping before it actually falls apart. I didn't. If anything, I thought we were solid. My name's Nolan. I'm 33, living just outside Seattle, and I've spent the last 6 years married to Madeline. She's 31, runs a boutique art gallery downtown, and for a long time, we had a rhythm most people envied. I handled the logistics, the finances, the travel planning. She took care of the social life, our routines, and somehow always made the apartment feel like home. We were opposites in the best way, her bright and intuitive, me detail-driven and steady. It just worked. Every morning, we'd make coffee together. I'd grind the beans, she'd prep the French press. Then we'd sit on the couch in silence, scrolling our phones, trading a few jokes. At night, she'd read some art blog out loud while I checked on our investment portfolio. It might sound boring to some, but it was golden to me. No drama, no fights, no hidden games. We trusted each other. Or at least I did. Even when my parents, old money types from northern Connecticut, made their distaste for Madeline plain, I didn't let it touch us. She's just not our kind of people, my mother once said after meeting her. She's charming, sure, but there's something offbeat about her. I'd laughed. Good. I'm allergic to your kind of people. They never got her. She didn't do the subtle power moves and perfectly timed social niceties. She was honest, expressive, unfiltered, even. But I loved that about her. She made me feel like I didn't have to play a role all the time. I remember this dinner party we hosted 3 years ago. Madeline invited her artist friends. I brought my coworkers from the aviation firm. It should have been oil and water, but it wasn't. Somehow, she made it work. Floating between conversations, tossing out one-liners that cracked up both crowds. Watching her in that moment, barefoot with a glass of Pinot in one hand, laughing about something one of the illustrators said, I felt like I had won the lottery. We didn't talk about big picture plans much. No, when we have kids, or when we move to the suburbs. We both agreed we'd take life in 5-year chunks. Renew the lease on the marriage, she'd joke. Like a gym membership, but with better sex. People always told us we looked easy together. Comfortable. A couple that made love seem simple. And I believed them. Why wouldn't I? There weren't any arguments. No major betrayals. Just this feeling of seamless continuity, until that small, quiet shift started to ripple beneath the surface. Looking back now, I realize how dangerous comfort can be. It can blind you, numb you, let you ignore the signs because you don't want to believe they mean anything. But in the moment, I was still convinced we were unshakable. Still convinced that love, when built right, stayed standing no matter what. I didn't know yet how wrong I was. It started with her phone. Madeline used to leave it everywhere, on the kitchen counter, the couch, the bathroom sink. She never had anything to hide. But then, one night while I was brushing my teeth, I noticed she had it face down beside the bed, screen dark. And when it buzzed, she flinched, grabbed it, and turned away to check the message. Work stuff? I asked, toothbrush still in my mouth. Yeah, she said quickly. Inventory glitch. Nothing major. I didn't think much of it at first. Everyone gets jumpy with work sometimes. But the next morning, she left the room to take a call. Then again 2 days later. After a week, I realized I hadn't seen her phone screen light up in front of me once. Then came the clothes. Madeline always had great taste, but lately her wardrobe shifted in a way I couldn't ignore. Before, she leaned vintage, blazers from consignment shops, flowy dresses, boots she'd wear until the soles peeled. But suddenly, there were designer labels. She came home with a Saint Laurent coat she called a treat to myself. I knew her gallery salary. That coat was 2 weeks of her pay. Maybe 3. Did I miss a raise? I asked lightly when I saw her wearing it. She smiled and said, I sold a rare print. Big commission. Just figured why not. She kissed me and walked into the bedroom like it was nothing. But something about her tone didn't sit right. It was breezy, too practiced. Like she'd already run through the answer in her head. Then came the restaurants. She mentioned a dinner with a client at a place in Capitol Hill, La Voliere. Pricey niche. French fusion with $60 entrees. I'd never been. But a week later, while organizing our joint finances, I saw a charge from there on our personal credit card. Didn't the gallery cover that dinner? I asked when she walked through the door. Madeline froze, just for a second. What dinner? La Voliere. Last week. You said it was with a collector? She blinked. Oh, no, I meant. That was a different one. I went there with Alice from the gallery. I must have used the wrong card. I'll Venmo you. But she never did. And Alice, from what I remembered, was a raw vegan who hated French food. A few nights later, as we were watching a documentary, she casually said, Hey, maybe we should put everything into one shared spreadsheet. For emergencies. Just in case one of us is out of commission or something. I stared at her. You've never cared about the finances. She shrugged. I just think it's smart. You always manage the money. I don't even know how many accounts we have. That's kind of the system we agreed on. Well, maybe it's time to change it, she said, not looking up from her wine glass. I don't want to be in the dark if something ever happens. I nodded slowly. Okay, sure. I opened a new folder on my desktop that night. Labeled it Reference Docs. I put our statements, our account numbers, everything we shared in there. Just like she asked. But I also started making backups. Secure ones. Under a different name. I didn't confront her. Not yet. But I started paying attention. She was still Madeline. Still laughing at my dumb jokes. Still folding my socks the way she knew I liked. But something was missing. Something invisible, but real. A subtle fracture I could feel every time I looked at her and saw someone reflected back I didn't quite recognize. I was walking through glass. Everything looked familiar. But none of it was real. I didn't go looking for proof. Not at first. I still wanted to believe there was some other explanation. That I was being paranoid, reading too much into things. But one afternoon, it hit me in a way I couldn't shake. Madeline had told me she was meeting a gallery client at a tea house near Pike Place. It was a quiet Tuesday, and I happened to be nearby after a supplier meeting wrapped early. I didn't plan to spy. I just walked past, half hoping I'd spot her through the window and wave. But I didn't see her inside. Instead, I saw her standing outside the side entrance, pacing in the alley, phone pressed to her ear. Her tone was sharp, fast, words clipped in a way I'd never heard from her. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught one name. Bryce. I told you. We need to be smart, she said. Not yet. Not until everything's moved. A pause. No, he doesn't know. God, you think I'd be this calm if he did? Another pause, then a low, bitter laugh. It's not like I'm robbing him. I deserve something for putting up with this for 6 years. My blood turned cold. I stepped back quickly, ducked into a bookstore 2 doors down, my heart pounding in my chest like a war drum. I waited for her to leave. Then I walked in the opposite direction, hands shaking, breath short. That night, I bought the recorder. It was a tiny thing. Voice activated. Discreet. I felt sick setting it up, tucking it behind the row of novels on the living room shelf, sliding it between the couch cushions when she went to the kitchen for a drink. I hated myself for doing it. But I hated feeling like a stranger in my own home even more. At first, nothing. Just background noise. Her humming as she folded laundry, the occasional phone call to a friend about some gallery drama. Then on a Thursday night, she called Bryce. I was alone when I listened to it, my earbuds in, sitting at my desk with the lights off. Her voice came through low and sweet, with a sharp edge underneath. Yeah, he's still clueless. Honestly, I think he'd hand me the passwords if I just smiled the right way. He trusts me that much. Pause. No, I haven't told him anything. We're on schedule. A couple more weeks, and we'll be ready. The vineyard estate's perfect. Remote, quiet. No one to ask questions. My stomach flipped. Then, once it's liquidated, we disappear. Simple. He won't know what hit him. That was it. No more guessing. No more assumptions. It wasn't just infidelity. It wasn't even about love anymore. This was calculated. Cold. She had built a plan behind my back, one she didn't think I'd ever see. I sat there in the dark for a long time, the recorder still in my palm, the audio file burning in my ears like acid. I wanted to scream, to tear the apartment apart. But instead, I opened a new folder on my computer. I labeled it WhisperNet, and I started preparing. The next morning, I called Darren. He'd been my best friend since middle school, the kind of guy you could go 6 months without seeing and still fall back into step like no time had passed. These days, he worked as a financial consultant out in Bellevue, sharp as ever, but with more suits and fewer video game marathons. Hey, I said when he picked up. You free tonight? For you? Always. You all right? No, I said. But I'm getting there. We met that evening at his place. I played the audio file. I didn't say a word while it ran. I didn't have to. His expression shifted from confusion to horror to something bordering on fury. Jesus, Nolan, he muttered when it ended. She's actually trying to fleece you. Yeah. And the guy Bryce, that's her coworker, right? Gallery assistant. According to her, I'm paying both of their salaries. Darren shook his head, then stood up and started pacing. Okay. First step, we shut it down. Quietly. You can't confront her yet. She'll just speed things up. I know. We set a trap. A legal one. That's when he brought in his colleague, Hannah, a trust lawyer who worked 2 floors below his office. Smart, no nonsense, and she didn't waste time with niceties. Once she saw the evidence, she leaned back in her chair and nodded like she'd seen this play out 100 times before. You're going to build a decoy, she said. Something that looks like the jackpot, but isn't. We'll create a shell account, visible but low value. Meanwhile, your real assets go into a trust. Loctite. No access without signatures from both parties, which she'll never get. Darren pulled out his laptop and started the process right there at the table. How much do you want to leave in the decoy? Enough to tempt her. Not enough to cripple me. Got it. That weekend, while Madeline was at a client dinner, I started documenting. I took screenshots of our shared accounts. I logged passwords, transaction histories, statements. I backed everything up to a hard drive, stored it in Darren's safe. Every step, every click, I saved it all. Then I bought a hidden camera. The library was the safest place. She rarely used it, and the shelf by my desk gave me the perfect angle of her side of the office nook. I drilled a hole behind a stack of aviation manuals, slid the pinhole lens into place, and connected it to a discrete cloud storage account. I tested the mic. It worked. All the while, I smiled. I helped her reorganize our shared folder. I let her watch as I moved documents into the new account she suggested. I even praised her for being proactive. It's smart, I said, patting her hand. You're right. We need to be on the same page. She beamed, kissed my cheek, and called me her rock. And I sat there with her in the glow of our fake unity, memorizing every gesture, every lie behind her smile. I wasn't just building a defense. I was setting the stage. Every digital move she made, every excuse she gave for being late or distracted or just tired, I logged it. She had built this thing in secret, a slow, careful betrayal. But now, I was matching her step for step. And when she finally made her move, I'd be ready. I told Madeline I was flying out to San Diego for a flight systems expo. 3 days, packed schedule, back Sunday night. She barely looked up from her laptop. Have fun, she said, sipping her tea. Text me when you land. I kissed her forehead and rolled my suitcase out the door. But I didn't go to San Diego. I went to Darren's. He had cleared the guest room, stocked the fridge, even set up a laptop with extra surveillance software in case I wanted to monitor anything live. But mostly, I just waited. Checked the feed. Slept like crap. Watched her every move on that tiny screen tucked in the corner of his den. 2 nights in, I saw her plug in a USB to my desktop. She typed quickly, cross-referencing accounts. Then she smiled. A small, satisfied thing. I knew the moment was close. I went home early. It was Sunday morning. The streets were still wet from rain, the city hushed and gray. I let myself in through the garage, quiet, slow, like I was breaking into my own life. I turned off the alarm before it could chime, slipped my shoes off, and crept through the hall. She was in the library. I heard the soft clicks of the mouse, the muttered words under her breath. I peeked through the doorway. Madeline sat at the desk, her hair pulled back, glasses on, completely focused. A second monitor displayed our shared account, the decoy one, open and draining. Transfer by transfer. She had a notebook beside her, checking off amounts. Efficient, methodical, and completely unaware. I stepped into the room. Busy morning? She jumped, then quickly turned to me, her face a mess of false surprise. You're back. Flight got canceled. She tried to close the tab, but I'd already seen it. We both knew it. So, I said, folding my arms, what are we working on? Madeline straightened in her chair. Her face shifted, no more pretense. She actually smirked. Well, she said, I guess that saves me the trouble of pretending. No more pretending then, I said. Let's hear it. She stood up, slowly, confidently, like this was just another business deal she'd already won. You weren't going to fight me. You were going to ask questions, stall, get sad. You're too careful. That's why it worked. I nodded toward the screen. Worked. I got what I needed, she said, brushing past me. You'll be fine. You always are. And I'm tired of being second priority to your spreadsheets and flight plans. She walked toward the front door, grabbed her purse. Consider this a clean break. You really think you emptied the vault? I asked. She turned, gave me a look full of pity. Oh, Nolan. You really don't get it. I smiled, just a little. No, you don't. She left with a confident click of the door. And I stood there, watching the cursor blink on the screen next to a balance that reads $7,841.02. Let her run. The real harvest hadn't even begun. It took less than 6 hours. By late afternoon, I started getting the texts. First one, then 3, then a dozen, all from Madeline. No opener, no apology, just a frantic stream of panic. Madeline. Where's the rest of it? What the hell is this? You lied to me. You're such a petty, manipulative bastard. We need to talk now. I didn't reply. Instead, I sat on Darren's patio, drinking a beer and watching his dog chase squirrels across the backyard. The wind smelled like cedar. My phone buzzed again. Madeline. Bryce is gone. He took everything from his end. He's not answering me. This isn't funny, Nolan. You don't know what you've done. That one made me smile. I already knew Bryce had split. Darren had dug into his background a week earlier, found 3 apartment leases under different names, a deleted LinkedIn page, and a burner number on Madeline's call logs. The guy was playing her just as smoothly as she tried to play me. When she realized she'd been played from both ends, she switched tactics. Madeline, I was going to tell you. I was just scared. Can we talk, please? In person. We can fix this. I blocked her number. The next day, I sat with Hannah and submitted the full evidence packet, audio, video, and digital trails, to our divorce counsel. They would file the civil theft report by end of week. That night, I got a message from an old mutual friend, Samira. Samira. Hey, heard you, and Matt split. Just checking in. She's pretty upset. I didn't respond. But soon, the messages changed. Friends started cooling toward me. A few unfollowed. One sent a cryptic DM about respecting both sides and not airing dirty laundry. That's when I realized Madeline had already started spinning her version. I could picture it. The weepy eyes, the heartbreak sob story. He changed. Got cold. Took everything from me. I was just trying to protect myself. She was good at that, twisting the truth just enough to get sympathy. And to be fair, I hadn't told anyone my side. I wasn't ready. Let them believe what they wanted. I didn't care if they thought I was the villain. I wasn't going to fight for people who never checked the facts. I changed the locks that week. Not just the house. My life. Passwords. Emails. Every shared tie, every forgotten thread of our old life. I cut them all. What stunned me most wasn't the betrayal. It was how easily she switched masks. How quickly love could curdle into strategy. She played the game. So did I. The difference was, I wasn't the one who lost. Madeline had tried to harvest the orchard. She walked away with rotten fruit and splinters in her hands. And now the roots were poisoned on her end, not mine. Arbitration was held in a quiet office building in Kirkland, neutral ground. It wasn't a courtroom, no gavel, no jury, but it still felt like a war zone. On one side of the table, Madeline sat with her attorney, a well-groomed woman in her 40s who looked like she hadn't gotten the full story. On the other side, it was me, Hannah, and one of her firm's litigation partners, a guy named Seth with a calm voice and a pit bull's grip on paperwork. The mediator, a soft-spoken man in round glasses, started with a suggestion. Let's keep this amicable. Maybe we delay major decisions today, give both parties room to reflect. No delays, Seth cut in. We're prepared to move forward. Madeline's lawyer raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by the confidence. On what basis? Seth smiled politely. We'll start with audio. He slid a flash drive across the table. The mediator plugged it in. The first clip played, Madeline's voice, soft and calculated. He trusts me that much. Once it's liquidated, we disappear. Simple. I didn't look at her. I just stared straight ahead while the room fell silent. Then came the screen recordings, clips of her transferring funds, timestamped, clear as day. Next, a written transcript of the gallery's internal calendar, showing that Bryce had requested a week off during the same window Madeline made her client dinner excuse. Her attorney shuffled in her seat. We weren't given these files in discovery. Hannah didn't blink. They were compiled for civil fraud review. Shared now, voluntarily. We'd like time to review. You can review them during lunch, Seth said smoothly. We'll continue after. The rest of the morning was more the same, screenshots, emails, even a financial trail from Bryce's ghost account. Every breadcrumb carefully placed by me and Darren was now lined up in perfect order, and it told one story: conspiracy, deception, and attempted theft. Madeline sat frozen through most of it, jaw clenched, not saying a word. But when the mediator finally called for a break, she stood quickly and stormed into the hallway. I followed, not out of kindness, but because I needed to hear it from her. She turned the second she saw me. Her eyes weren't wet. They were burning. You'll regret this, she hissed. I didn't flinch. I regret loving a mask. She scoffed, stepped in close. You think you've won? They'll see you for what you are, a control freak. A man so obsessed with money he'd rather destroy his wife than share. I met her stare evenly. You tried to steal from me. You tried to vanish with someone else, and you got played by your own partner. This isn't about control, Madeline. It's about consequences. She stepped back, breathing hard. For a second, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Not sadness. Not fear. Embarrassment. The kind that doesn't fade. Back in the room, her attorney's tone had shifted. All talk of assets and settlements turned into whispered damage control. They offered to drop all claims in exchange for confidentiality and a quick divorce agreement. We declined. Seth simply said, we're filing full motion. The court will decide. That afternoon, Madeline left the building without saying another word. And I walked out into the parking lot knowing exactly what had happened in that room. Not just the collapse of her case, but the collapse of her performance. The mask had cracked, and the world finally saw who she really was underneath. I should have known my parents would get involved. They flew in 3 days after the arbitration hearing, unannounced. I came home from a late lunch with Darren and saw their car parked crooked in the driveway. My dad pacing the porch, my mom sitting rigid on the swing like she was trying to hold something in. I didn't even make it to the door before my father snapped. What the hell are you doing to that poor girl? I stopped mid-step. Excuse me. You've humiliated her. Publicly. Your mother and I got a call from her crying her eyes out. She said you've turned this into a witch hunt. She tried to rob me, I said flatly. My mother stood up. Oh, come on, Nolan. You always take things too far. Maybe she made a mistake. But that doesn't mean you ruin her life. I stared at them. She plotted with another man to drain our accounts. She was going to disappear with him. I have proof. Evidence. She said you twisted it. My dad cut in. Said you manipulated everything so it looked worse than it was. She said I what? Son, my mother said, her voice softening in that rehearsed way. Maybe you're not seeing how cold you've become. This obsession with being right. It's not healthy. I almost laughed. It was surreal, hearing my own parents defend the woman who just tried to financially gut me like a fish. You weren't there, I said. You didn't hear her voice when she thought I was out of state. You didn't hear the things she said about me. She was scared, my mom said quickly. Anyone would be under pressure. I realized, in that moment, they weren't really defending Madeline. They were defending the version of her they had liked better than me. The one who smiled politely, asked about their garden, played the social game just right. The version who made them feel cultured. You're siding with her, I said. My father didn't deny it. We're disappointed in you. That one landed harder than I expected. But it didn't last long. Because the next morning, Darren emailed them the files. The audio, the video, all of it. He didn't even ask me, he just sent it. I got one voicemail from my mother the next day. Her voice shaky. We didn't know. I'm so sorry. I deleted it. For 33 years, I thought their love was unconditional. Turns out, it just came with a price tag. And I wasn't paying it anymore. It was Darren who found him. Bryce had gone quiet after the arbitration, his socials wiped, his number dead, even the gallery's website had scrubbed his name. But Darren had a gift for digging. It took him less than a week to find a financial trail, an obscure PayPal account used to fund a donation to a rural artist retreat in Southern Oregon. He's hiding out at some place called Vine Ridge Collective, Darren said, scrolling through the site. Off-the-grid vibe. Wine barrels, open-air studios, no phone reception. Think he's still running the same con? I asked. Darren smirked. Probably. But let's use it. We didn't need a warrant or a dramatic sting. Just a phone call. One of Darren's clients was a contributor to the retreat and agreed to pass along a message. Bryce could either come forward and talk, or we'd escalate it to the local authorities and bring charges of financial conspiracy across state lines. Bryce called the next day. He sounded like a man who hadn't slept in days. First thing he said was, "Look, I didn't know she was married at first." I stayed silent. I figured she had someone. But she told me it was ending. She said you were controlling. That she was scared. And when did she tell you about the money? He sighed. A couple months ago. She said she'd been stockpiling funds. That she was walking away clean and needed a partner to help set up her new life. I thought I was in love, man. Thought we were doing something bold. Romantic. What changed? She screwed me, he said bitterly. Tried to make me wire everything to a joint account with her name on it. Said she didn't trust herself alone with that much money. That's when I knew. I checked the account. It was already empty. She cleaned me out before she even left Seattle. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. So what do you want from me? He asked. A statement, I said. Signed. Sworn. You lay out everything, when you met her, what she told you, how she tried to funnel the money. In exchange, I don't press charges. He agreed. His affidavit was brutal. Not just for what it proved, but what it revealed. Madeline hadn't just been working one con, she'd been running two. Bryce said he found emails where she was also talking to another man, someone from her yoga studio. Told him she was finally leaving her toxic marriage and moving with him to Oregon for a fresh start. Same vineyard fantasy. Different victim. With Bryce's testimony, everything unraveled. Her legal team dropped her the next morning. Whatever story she had told them crumbled under the weight of his statement. There was no salvaging her case. The judge approved the civil fraud filing. All asset claims denied. Divorce settlement in my favor. Madeline didn't show up for the last hearing. Just an empty chair and a file folder. That was how her empire fell, not with a scream, not with a confession. Just the truth. Documented. Verified. And a silence she couldn't spin her way out of. The house was quiet now. No more jazz humming from the kitchen. No perfume trailing down the hallway. Just me, a toolbox, and Darren on a Saturday afternoon, ripping out the floating shelf she had picked for aesthetic balance. You sure about this one? He asked, holding a chisel against the built-in by the fireplace. Gone, I said. Even the reclaimed oak? Especially the reclaimed oak. We laughed, but underneath it, there was something heavier. Not grief, not really. More like the ache you feel when a weight you've carried for too long suddenly drops. Your arms still strain from the memory of it. Over the next few weeks, I gutted the place. Repainted the bedroom walls a clean slate gray. Got rid of the mirror in the foyer that she'd insisted opened up the energy. Replaced it with a vintage flight map I found in a used bookstore. Something that felt like mine. The kitchen was last. I boxed up every artisanal spice jar, every gold-rimmed plate, every sleek matte wine glass we never actually used. Donated all of it. The divorce finalized quietly. No media circus. No last-minute objections. Just a digital document, delivered by email, signed and sealed. She got nothing. Word got around fast. The friends who'd ghosted me after her sob story started trickling back in. A few offered apologies. Samira texted a long, winding message about being misled and wanting to reconnect. I didn't answer. Forgiveness wasn't off the table. But I wasn't setting it for company anymore. Even my parents came around again, tentatively. A letter from my mother arrived first. Then a phone call from my father, awkward and stiff. I listened, but I didn't invite them over. They made their choices. So did I. There was no explosive finale. No fireworks, no big speech. Just a sense of clearing. Of space returning to something usable. Darren and I installed a new bookshelf in the library, sturdy, unpainted, no secret compartments. You gonna date again? He asked one evening, cracking a beer. Eventually, I said. But not until I forget what this feels like. What? The peace. I nodded. Yeah, I want to take peace for granted first. By early spring, the house looked completely different. Not fancier. Not colder. Just real. No curated touches. No gallery-ready decor. Just the life I wanted to live on my terms. I stood in the backyard one morning, watching the wind move through the cedar trees. The same wind that had blown through everything this year, stripping it bare, then slowly settling. I didn't feel bitter. I felt clear. Madeline had tried to burn it all down, but I'd rebuild it with my own hands. Stronger. Simpler. This wasn't a comeback story. It was a reset. And I was finally living in a home that didn't whisper lies through the walls.